Welcome to today's webinar, Discovering Digital Finance Functions, with our much valued patron partners, RSM. Today, obviously, as we look towards the festive season and beyond, it's never been more important to ensure that our businesses are operating at peak efficiency and, importantly, with the correct knowledge to successfully plan for the future. We're obviously a budget coming tomorrow. Many challenges for business right now to balance those books and to make sure that they can become profitable. The STA, we're absolutely delighted to be partnering today with a leading audit, tax and consulting advisor in RSM UK, who are going to deliver this online webinar. Stuart McCallum is with us and his colleague Hannah, and I'm going to hand over the reins to them shortly. But the format for the session, which is being recorded, is to allow Stuart and Hannah to present, and then we'll entertain some Q&A afterwards. So if you do have any questions, etc., would be very helpful if you could put them in the chat. And then once we come to the end of the presentation, I'll do my best to moderate and, of course, obviously invite you to raise hands as well if you want something to say which isn't in the chat. But on that basis, we've got a few more. If you're not on mute, I will put myself on mute. If you're not on mute yet, please do the same and stay on mute, and we'll hand over to Stuart and Hannah to kick off. So thanks very much. Over to you guys.
Thanks very much, Mark, for that introduction. I'm delighted to be here today in a virtual environment to give you some insights in terms of a key area that we are seeing, I guess, demand from existing clients is how do they use more digital tools and data tools, particularly across the finance function. So what we've got is a range of slides that we'll canter through at a reasonable pace, I think, to give you some time for Q&A at the end. And that's the kind of outline agenda, sort of beginning, middle and end. We'll kind of pass the ball around a little bit between myself and Hannah, so you won't get too bored of me talking all the time or Hannah talking all the time, but I guess just an overview in terms of who we are. So I'm Stuart McCallum. I'm currently sitting in, it's gone forward a slide, I think. Currently sitting in our Glasgow office. And my background is I started off trained as a chartered accountant and joined a hotel group in their M&A team many years ago, given my slightly greying beard. And from that point, I've spent a lot of time in, I guess, hospitality and food and drink related sector. I've had roles with RBS in Clydesdale in terms of funding for growth, funding opportunities for growth. And I've been with RSM for about 16 years now in total. Most of that has been working with clients on their growth strategy, whether that is M&A or helping with funding. And increasingly over the last 10 years, I've spent more time on, I guess, just being that day-to-day support for our clients. A lot of them are family-owned businesses. They range from single millions up to tens of millions, some into the hundreds of millions. But it's been a common theme for me in terms of how do we help clients just make better decisions and plan their future more. It's just in a more controlled, organised fashion. And I do think that digital and data tools are helping to aid that, but it's not the be-all and end-all, as we'll explain. So Hannah, you can maybe introduce yourself as well.
Sure, thank you, Stuart. So I'm Hannah Atchison. I'm an Associate Director based in the Edinburgh office. I've been with RSM around 10 years. One of my hats at RSM is to look after digital solutions in Scotland, and I also oversee the delivery of sort of management information, bookkeeping, finance support type work to our clients in Scotland as well.
Thank you. Let's go into just a brief overview of what we do and who we are. So if we can move forward, just go on to the next one, Hannah. So yeah, I mean, broadly, we are an audit, tax and consulting business. I think audit is probably the one that everyone can appreciate and understand more clearly. That has been in high demand, but it's only relevant for companies that are within the audit threshold. That is changing next year, so the audit threshold will increase. It's been flat for, I think, about 10 years. So with inflation, that should have increased. So I think that's probably about middle of next year. Quite a few companies that maybe have been audited that might not need to be audited anymore are thinking, and that is that they can then maybe spend some more resource on improving their finance function and just embracing some of the digital tools that were outlined. Tax is, I guess, a major area of our business, and with the recent UK budget and tomorrow the Scottish budget is ever topical. I think it's fair to say that tax is incredibly complicated, and myself and Hannah are grateful that we have a team that can look at any aspect of tax and give you that local piece or international piece where required. And again, what we have is in Scotland, we have our offices in Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, and Lerwick. So we cover all of Scotland, and we have teams of all shapes and sizes in each of these locations, and we can pull on our wider UK business where needs be also. And consulting is actually the biggest part of our business, and broadly that will help with a range of different projects of all shapes and sizes. A lot of what we're trying to drive into that is around giving insight and advice rather than the more compliance-based process, which is more audit-related. And a lot of that is around preparing our clients for a transaction of some sort. A lot of that has been around succession planning, so passing from one generation to another. It may be going to a bank or a funder to get the right type of finance to help your business grow, or it may be you're looking to sell the business or looking to buy other businesses. And the one thing that we've seen that's changed with the UK budget has been the change to business property relief. So certainly for a lot of our family-owned businesses, that is quite a vexing question in terms of what will that mean for the future of the company. But as I say, we've got it all covered across that audit, tax and consulting piece. So Hannah, just on to the next slide and we'll just sort of canter through consulting. So consulting, we have sort of broken down into 6 key solutions. Restructuring is an area where we have got all the tools to help companies who are starting to feel a little bit of distress, down to the ones where the distress is too far. We have been amazed by the resilience of our client base in Scotland and across the UK. We've seen very little distress, and that is good because our clients, we feel, are making best use of the information they can and driving and controlling and managing their business. But we have got that resource available to support, and that is something that, with interest rates remaining a little bit higher for a little bit longer, might be a little bit more distress next year. And clearly in consumer markets, hospitality and tourism, you are exposed to consumer spend on many different levels. Forensic and investigation services, again, is an area where we see demand for that, and that is, when there's a problem, tends to be in how do we get to the root of it. Again, we use a lot of digital and data tools in terms of unearthing data and following financial transactions. Business transformation is probably one of the areas where we see significant growth as companies are looking at changing maybe their operating model, their strategic model, or their whole ERP or MRP type system. End-to-end transformation. A lot of that is driven by people wanting to make better use of data and analytics of all sorts, shapes and sizes. Risk and governance is unending. I think it just keeps increasing the amount of governance, which then exposes you to risk if you're not following the governance. So again, thankfully, we've got a cracking team that can help with, I guess, all aspects of managing your risk and making sure the governance that you have to adhere to, you're adhering to correctly. Finance function support is where, I guess, myself and Hannah fit in, and that is anything that hits in a finance function. It could be your year-end compliance, it could be helping with your management information, your forecast, but we've got end-to-end solutions, and we can either help by deploying our teams as an outside resource to help, or we can outsource some of your finance function, or we can second some colleagues in to help with a particular technical issue that you need some help with. And final area of our solutions is deal services, which is really across any kind of transactional element that's related to growth. And again, we think that's going to be busy. That has been busy this year pre-budget, and we think it will increase in demand in the next year as people are looking at what they're going to do with their business next. How can they grow it? Is M&A on the agenda? And do I need to raise funding? So that's probably a little bit of an overview about us. So next slide, Hannah. So what I'll do is I'll hand over to Hannah now, and she can take you through a digital-first finance function. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So what is a digital-first finance function? Well, it's one that's centred around digital systems rather than manual processes. And ideally what we want to see is data from that source data, whether that be a POS system, a booking system, or invoices. We want to see that flow seamlessly through into the accounting system, into your reporting, and hopefully also your forecasting with as little manual intervention as possible. And how do we do that? Well, by using digital tools, including the accounting system itself, ensuring the integration of the different digital tools. So again, for example, your POS system being integrated into your accounting system. Also the automation of processes, which I can explain in a bit more detail later on. And where full automation or integration isn't possible, can information be imported to reduce the sort of manual rekeying of information at each of these stages along the way? And I think this is increasingly important, as Stuart mentioned, and increasingly it's expensive to hire, as I'm sure you're all aware. And we want the finance team to be able to focus on value add activities rather than what we see happening often now, which is the time being focused on producing and the data and processing information rather than analysing it and interpreting it. With the digitalisation of the finance function as well, we see a quicker production time, so you can reduce the month-end sort of year-end closing timeline so that you can make more timely decision making. And it also tends to improve the actual quality and consistency of the data as it's not so prone to manual error. And the use of digital tools also allows analysis that just wouldn't be possible manually. But we also see at the reporting stage that the presentation can be much better. And then when you come to potentially sell the business or maybe look to raise funding, that higher quality information can really impact on the valuation and also the cost of raising funds. So we do see this as a really important thing to look at this now. So is your finance function digital? So these are some of the things that I would look out for, and there's signs that maybe there is room for improvement. So manual repetitive tasks, rekeying of information from one system to another, lots of paper-based records or Excel spreadsheets, long reporting cycles, a strain on the finance team, maybe a large finance team relative to the size of the business, and also where reporting's not used in management decision making, or if it's not reliable, useful, or easy to understand. So if any of these are familiar, I think don't worry. I think most businesses are on this sort of digital journey at the moment, but soon digital is just not going to be optional. So it does need to be on your radar. And I think a good starting point is maybe identifying what the main pain points in your finance function are. What are the most sort of time consuming, error prone areas where you think you'd get the most benefit from digitizing or automating, and maybe starting from there. So we do have a few tools that we can use to help. So we've developed a digital health check to sort of assist in that evaluating of the current state of the finance function and help identify those areas of weakness. And it's a complimentary service. We offer it to all our sort of accounts compliance clients at the moment annually, and we're happy to do it for other clients or non-clients alike. It normally takes about 30 minutes and it would be running through a checklist with one of our digital team. And it produces quite a high level report, sort of like that on screen, showing a barometer for each of the areas to show where the areas of weakness and maybe strength are, and some suggestions for the next step. So it is quite high level, but it normally starts quite a useful conversation and gets you thinking about what you might be able to do to start digitising the finance system. We can also do a more in-depth review of the finance function. And the scope of this can be sort of varied depending on the size and complexity of the business, whether you want us to look at the entire finance function or just focus on some key areas of concern. And what we normally do is spend some time on site with the finance team, with you walking us through the current processes and asking questions so we can understand the current state, and we can document that current process and make recommendations for improvements, which often incorporate digital solutions as well as some sort of more straightforward process changes. In terms of cloud accounting, I'm sure a lot of you already use a cloud accounting system, and I think a good accounting system is the foundation of a good finance function. And many of the systems nowadays have a lot of inbuilt machine learning and automation tools, which can greatly improve efficiency if they're fully utilised. So if you feel like your system maybe hinders rather than helps the finance function, it might be time to assess whether it's what you need. And sometimes the issue isn't just with the finance system itself, but it might be due to like poor implementation or lack of understanding of the functionality. It's amazing how many conversations we have with clients where maybe they just don't know the full functionality of their system, especially as a lot of systems you sort of get automatic updates. So if you know your Xero and QuickBooks and things, they're constantly bringing out new product updates, and unless you're keeping on top of them, you might just not be aware of all the functionality. So if you need help with sort of system selection, implementation, looking at integrations and maybe some training to understand all the functionality, then we can do that on a number of different systems. So as I mentioned earlier, there's some great inbuilt automation in many accounting softwares, but building something more bespoke requires quite specialist skills, often across a number of different technologies. And we've invested quite heavily in this over recent years, and I think our capabilities here are sort of best explained by an example. So I'll just run you through one of my favourite examples. So this was a client that came to us and they were trying to decide between hiring an additional finance assistant or outsourcing some of the work to us. And we suggested a third solution, which was automating one of their more cumbersome processes. So in this particular business, the finance team received hundreds of remittance advice a day. And for each remittance advice they received, they had to open an email, open the PDF, check the invoice number and gross amount, and then manually match that against a bank transaction and a customer invoice. And that work kept someone busy pretty much full time. But as the business was expanding, they were possibly going to have to recruit to be able to keep managing to do that. So our team built a tool which automatically opened the emails, saved the remittance advice down, and then automatically uploaded them to software which extracted the key information, which then allowed them to be auto-matched to the bank and invoice listing and accounting system. And I think this is a good example of how automation can help save time and cost, but also as this business continues to scale, the technology will be able to deal with increased volumes, whereas if it was manual, the business would need to continue to hire. So I think this is a really excellent example which uses quite a few different technologies, but when patched together, they can do quite sophisticated things. So reporting was that next step along that journey that I showed you at the start of the digital finance function. So we focus mainly on the back end this now, but one of the key reasons why we want to digitize the back end is so that we can get better quality, more reliable data in a shorter time frame, and that can ultimately lead to data-led decision making. So we want to be able to take the data output and then use data analytics tools to make the data richer and more insightful. And we can do that by extracting data, layering it, cross-referencing it with other sources, whether that be financial or non-financial. And then we can summarize it and present it in a way that's understandable and impactful. So increasingly we're seeing, rather than sort of traditional P&Ls and just KPI numbers, we're seeing more dynamic, drillable dashboards, for example, that you can filter for different cost centres, for different date ranges. And I think it's just more understandable for maybe people that aren't financially minded. So if at the moment the management information is prepared and just sent to the bank manager, or maybe just glanced at and then filed away, it's probably because the information included in them just isn't that useful, or maybe it's not reliable, or maybe it's just not well understood. So it's worth thinking about what would be helpful for management to see, because used correctly, the management information can be a really powerful tool in actually managing the business. So I've got a case study of one of our clients that we help with management reporting. So this is one of Stuart's clients, and we support this client with monthly reporting packs, which is tailored to that particular business. And Stuart meets with them monthly to discuss the figures and also just any ad hoc queries they have, help them make future plans based on those figures. I think it's maybe also worth mentioning in this forum, I also looked after so we did the full outsourced finance function for a hotel for around 5 years. So that was from pre-opening when they had no finance support on site, and over the 5 years they've grown, so they've now got a bit of a team, and they don't require pardon me, they don't require quite as much support from us. But we help with the bookkeeping, payroll, monthly management information, and that included a USALI format to help them report to parent. And for them, we did sort of fortnightly calls, including discussing their financials and any sort of ad hoc queries they had. And this is just an example of one of the dashboards that I mentioned earlier. So we can build custom dashboards to show the KPIs that are useful to that particular business. And they are again drillable by different date ranges, different cost centres, etc. And I think as my voice is just about to go, Stuart, it's a good time for you to take over.
Perfect timing, Hannah. Thank you for that. Kind of setting the scene in terms of, I would say what we've sort of spoken about is the kind of current and historic position in terms of your finance function. But I think to get, I'll call it a fully interactive finance function, you need to be able to load on, I'll call it your kind of financial forecasting aspect, and put your full beams on and see, I know where I am right now, but where could I go? What levers do I have to influence the direction of travel, and how can I kind of maximize what I'm looking for from the business? And that can be through a range of different metrics. So just move on to the next slide, Hannah, please. Thanks. So I guess for us, what we're talking about for forecast is, integrated profit and loss account, balance sheet and cash flow that provide you with a picture of the future based on a number of assumptions. And generally, most of these forecasts that we build in will give you the ability to do sensitivity scenarios, so assess what happens if that changes, how would that ripple through to my financial position for the future. Now, I guess all this is giving you as a direction of travel. I think any financial forecast, once you do it, the minute it's finished, is probably not going to be correct, but the direction of travel is more controllable and more understandable. And as you get into this routine of getting, I'll call it, your historics, your current, your financial forecast, you start to get a clearer and a more defined position going forward that you've got even more control over. But I guess what we do, we work in very much, understanding, so what is the business and objective? So what are the forecasts? Therefore, they could be business as usual. They could be needed for some form of fundraising project, or a range of different scenarios. It could be an investment case for a new hotel or the like. And then we can build, and we can help with that, I guess, a building of the financial forecast. We've got a range of different tools we can use. We've got a software package that we work with, or we can use Excel as required. Sometimes Excel can be good, but building it in terms of that software package to your day-to-day financials tends to be better, and it then becomes part of your day-to-day business decision and tools that you use to run your business. Then I guess it's just understanding the impact of the assumptions on the forecast. And that's where, again, it just helps you to give more control over the direction. So when you get to the destination, was that good, bad, or indifferent? And again, what we can do is we can support in terms of the knowledge we have of hospitality and tourism. We can bring in our perspectives in terms of what scenarios might you want to run, what planning, what if kind of sensitivity options can you assess and consider as well as part of that. So next slide, Hannah. So again, this is just an example of some of the, the kind of, I guess, the graphs or images or bar charts or whatever. There's different ways we can cut and show this data. Underlying it's going to be that profit and loss balance sheet and cash flow, but actually summarizing some of the KPIs just makes that dashboard and your forecast more understandable and aligns with, I'll call it, the rest of your finance function once you've got it fully digitized. So next slide, Hannah. I guess for us, the benefits of that forecasting is, it just gives you the visibility and confidence, and particularly in the cash required to enable your business to ensure you've got sufficiency of funding to meet the future strategy. You know, we all know that, you know, P&L is good, but ultimately it's all about cash. And having that integrated forecast means that you are focusing on all aspects of your finance and not just being driven by maybe some aspects of your P&L, which can be very deceptive. What it is, once you get this working, is you know it's going to work. You know that it's not being cobbled together and someone's pulled together a forecast that might be right, might be wrong, might not work, and might not cope with some of the sensitivity scenarios. So what you've got is a robust forward-looking package that supports that current and historic view that you have in your finance function as well. And what it does is it gives you that ability to really probe and just discuss management decisions. Well, what happened? What if we do this differently? You know, this is how our numbers have looked to date. What if we apply some of that sensitivity going forward? And how can we influence and improve the sustainability of our business? Next slide, Hannah. So what we're moving through is just through to the, I guess, the conclusion. We're just running about time as well, which is good. So I guess the benefits of this digital finance function, particularly from the reporting aspects, is, you know, we believe that it's tight. You have to have timely and reliable information. You know, you cannot have December's numbers, you get them at the end of March. That's just not quick enough. You need to have timely, reliable information. You need to know it's robust, and you need to know you can make informed decisions from it. You know, we think it increases the analysis you can do in the business, and it should reduce the production time of producing data and packs. It should be high quality, you know, so it should align with your business in terms of how you project. You should have high quality information that's ready and at your fingertips. It enables that better, more informed decision making. And what it does, it demonstrates that you've got control of your business drivers. Final piece is, I think if you put your forward look and put your full beams on, you know, you've got that, I'll call it a very holistic view in terms of past, present and future. And what we're really seeing is, again, in this digital age, is it enables any funders to conduct any diligence more swiftly. If you've got this all in a sweet pack of information ready to go, anyone's going to take you more seriously, will understand you just know how the business works. And what we're seeing, again, in terms of valuations, we're seeing it can help in terms of that valuation. If you are selling your business or looking to raise equity, it helps that you can really show how your business ticks and how you are continually improving it and controlling the drivers of it. So on to the next slide, Hannah. So I guess just some key takeaways for everybody. You know, our thinking is that, you know, this digital evolution is coming into every area of the world right now. And we see the finance function as an area that has got so many opportunities to just use these tools to enable more timely, more reliable, better quality information, but also allow your team to look at really adding value and not spending as much time in terms of, you know, inputting the data, taking it from here to there or whatever. It gives you, I guess, it's that foundation building in your business that across the rest of your business, there's so many digital tools that you can use as well. And finance tends to be central to most businesses, and then we're seeing different bits of the business being added on and digitalized, and then that rich layer of data on top of your financial information. You know, you've got to have efficient data management. You know, again, a lot of these tools is streamlining how your data flows, but you've got to get the basics in place. So actually getting the data into the right place at the right time and consistently is vital. If you don't have that, you can't actually use these tools because you're really just putting garbage in, you'll get garbage out. I guess one of the downsides of a digital world, as we all know, is, you know, the safeguarding piece. You know, so the risk of cyber risk is high, but, you know, there are lots of robust cybersecurity measures that you can put in place to make sure you're safeguarding your data and your systems. And you have to really have the two running in parallel. You can't have a, you know, digitally orientated finance function without taking into account that cyber risk. And again, we've got teams that are working with clients in terms of, well, how would you mitigate the risks? What security can you put in place? And that safeguarding over your data and systems. And I guess it's a digital journey for your finance function. You know, this doesn't happen overnight, but it's the direction of travel. And that digital health check we find is quite enlightening, that, you know, clients say, okay, this is where I am. So over the next couple of years, I want to improve. I want to go on a journey and I want to embrace this. And we do think ultimately it allows you to run your business more efficiently, more effectively, should help you generate more cash, understand where you're making profits. And as I say, it helps if you are looking at any form of fundraising or any form of external support, you're just better prepared, and you should find a far more streamlined approach through that whole process. So I think that's us, Mark. We thought we'd run for half an hour and then give time for 15 minutes of chat. There's our mugshots, and we've got QR codes that hopefully you can scan and connect with us on LinkedIn. And certainly I'm around in Glasgow, Hannah's around in Edinburgh. We're generally around, the Scottish patch. So if anyone does want to reach out for a better conversation with us, please just do so. And hopefully it's been interesting and informative for you all. So I'll hand over to you, Mark, for some Q&A and discussion.
Fantastic, Stuart. Thanks to you and Hannah for that. I mean, obviously, as the co-chair of the Tourism and Hospitality Industry Leadership Group, one of the main sort of areas of missions of needing to be addressed or we're championing is the need to make technology work for us better still than it has been, and getting more businesses embracing technology and using it. And I know you touched on the issue around, obviously, maybe not having to recruit staff. I know there's a couple of recruiters on the call today. They might not be overly happy about the fact that they may not be needing to recruit people, but the reality is we have an industry that is obviously having to compete against many other industries as well for accounting personnel, digital marketeers, all of those different resource needs. So it's solutions that as an organization we've certainly started to shift our way of working into this space, and I think from a simple point as well around us being able to evidence and provide real factual timely evidence to ministers when it comes to lobbying. What is the bottom line of a business look like? How harsh is the situation right now? We've recently conducted our survey. We were able to report that 45% of the respondents only have 3 months of cash liquidity. Now, that is scary to the point that how can we help those businesses as well navigate their way through what might come over the next 24, 48 hours, which could potentially make it be a lot worse for the industry. So I think all of the solutions that you've highlighted and provide for businesses, something that is, in my view, well worth embracing.